What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gage. Welcome to the channel. Today, I am excited to be showing off my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck profile. This is specifically the budget variant, so you will not be seeing any of the Primite engine. We are mostly utilizing many of the cards from the newly released starter decks, along with some affordable inclusions to be able to kind of bolster the strategy without breaking the bank. So I'm excited to hop into it, but before I do, remember to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff to help out your boy. It really does help out the small creators like myself. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. So of course we have to start with the one and only Blue Eyes White Dragon. So I know that I mentioned that this is a budget deck profile, so I am playing certain higher rarity versions of cards in the deck. However, I have checked, and all of the cards in the deck either, again, come in the structure deck, meaning that they have a common, more affordable variant. So, of course, when looking at the lowest rarity of these cards, they are affordable. And most of the cards, thanks to that structure deck, even including some of the new additions, are less than a few dollars. I don't think there's any card you will see in this profile that is more than a couple bucks. So that is great. So I am playing the secret rare, the absolutely beautiful movie pack versions. And yeah, 3 copies, maybe it is a little much, but I definitely wanted to be able to flex the gorgeous rarity of the movie pack variant. And yeah, Blue Eyes, it's the namesake of the deck. You need it in order to be able to play in this deck. You can certainly get away with just being able to play 2. However, we are playing cards in the deck in which case, at the worst, if you need to be able to discard it off of a certain effect, or even if you have it in your hand, you can easily special summon it. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's already a budget variant, so it's going to take a hit to the consistency. So at the end of the day, it is negligible as to whether or not you play 2 or 3, but I am choosing to play 2 because, I mean, it's a Blue Eyes deck. We have to be able to utilize the main man himself. So I'm playing 3. You could certainly get away with 2. And, of course, we are playing the 1 Jet Dragon. Just an amazing card because of the fact that it allows you to essentially protect your other cards, because they can't, essentially he says that other cards you control can't be destroyed by card effects. That is useful because of the fact that we are playing True Light, which does have the downside where if it is destroyed, you will end up essentially having your entire field nuked. It does have a nice revival ability because if a card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could special summon it from the graveyard, which is a nice consolation prize. And then, of course, at the start of the damage step, if it battles, you could target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So just overall, a really solid card and a nice addition to the deck. Yeah, I like being able to play at 1 copy because sometimes it can be very difficult for your opponent to be able to play around this. So I recommend at least giving 1 copy a shot, especially in a budget variant like this. And we are playing 3 copies of the very gorgeous and amazing Maiden of White. Just a level 1 spellcaster tuner monster, which is incredibly relevant because you can utilize it to go into the new Link monster, the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. And of course, you will be able to use it as to be able to help you synchro summon. So it has 3 pretty decent effects. You can send this from the hand or field to the grave to place a True Light directly from your hand, deck, or grave face up in your spell and trap card zone. And that will allow you to be able to then utilize your True Light to be able to extend further. So that is very nice in on itself. And if you special Blue Eyes while the card is in the grave, you can special summon it, meaning that it essentially sets you up right away for a synchro summon. And when this card is targeted for an attack, you can quick effect special summon a Blue Eyes or level 1 Light Tuner from your grave. So overall, the fact that it has so many different effects for different situations, makes it very versatile, and is just one of the best pieces of support that Blue Eyes has gotten in a very long time. So you definitely want to be playing and maxing out on 3 copies of Maiden of White. We are also playing 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. Again, just a very solid normal monster, normal summon for the deck. Because it says when it's normal summoned, you can add a level 1 Light Tuner from the deck to the hand. So, of course, most of the time you are going to go for the Maiden of White. However, because of the fact that it is searching for a level 1 Light Tuner specifically, it does mean that you have the ability to search Effect Veiler if you do just so happen to already have access to the Maiden of White. So you can also discard this card, target an effect monster you control, send it to the grave, and if you do, special summon a Blue Eyes from the deck. So you are going to find that there are many different ways to be able to get access to your Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Sage with Eyes of Blue is one of the options to do so. So overall, just has always been it's older support for Blue Eyes, and yet is still just as good. So definitely want to max out and play 3 copies. So, because this is a budget variant, we are trying to mitigate the loss in consistency that the Primite engine would be able to provide us. So, one card that I have liked in particular is 3 copies of Bingo Machine Go, which I think is pretty underrated. This was definitely a go-to card back in the day to be able to increase the consistency, because it says that you can reveal 3 cards from the deck that meet at least one of the criteria below. Your opponent randomly picks one for you to add to your hand. You'll shuffle the rest back. So the criteria is either a Blue Eyes monster, so that could be either the Blue Eyes White Dragon or the Jet, or a spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Most of the targets for this are going to be mentioning the Blue Eyes, a Blue Eyes monster, or is a spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon. So Bingo Machine Go is going to be able to search pretty much anything you need. So as far as I'm concerned, Bingo Machine Go is another copy of whatever it is that you're missing. So you will see that the ratios that we are playing have been adjusted to be able to accommodate for this, because when it says you reveal 3 cards, those 3 cards do not necessarily have to be all different cards. You can actually choose 3 of the same card to guarantee that search. So one of the cards that we are choosing to max out on, that you would normally max out on, is 3 copies for Wishes for Eyes of Blue. One of the best pieces of support that Blue Eyes has gotten in a very long time. It allows you to discard a card, add a level 1 Light Tuner. So again, that could be either your Maiden of White, it could be an Effect Veiler, and 1 spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand. You can also banish this from the grave to target a Blue Eyes White Dragon you control, equip a Blue Eyes monster from the extra deck to it as an equip spell that gives it 400 extra attack. The attack boost is kind of negligible, but that secondary effect is useful for being able to equip your extra deck monster, the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which does have application for helping to protect your monsters. We'll go over what that card is when we get to the extra deck portion, but Wishes for Eyes of Blue is phenomenal. Both of those effects, you are able to use both of those effects in the same turn, only once that turn, but that's fine. So it is unfortunate because a lot of the times this is very much going to be a hand trap magnet. However, if this goes through, it guarantees that you will pretty much be able to go full combo. So yeah, Wishes for Eyes of Blue is fantastic. Normally you're going to be playing it at 3 copies, but especially in a pure variant like this. And like I said, it is something that you can search off of the Bingo Machine Go. So if you have all 3, if you didn't draw into the wishes, you could simply reveal all 3, and then your opponent will be forced to add it to your hand. But if you do already have wishes, there are other targets that you can search. For example, 3 copies of Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. Now, normally this is not a card that you would play at this ratio, but we have to account for the fact that we are playing the bingo machine, so it is going to be a little bit different than normal, but it's still a good card in on itself. It does allow you to straight up special summon in defense position a Blue Eyes monster from your deck, grave, or banishment. But if you control no Blue Eyes White Dragon, you can only special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon with its effect. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for dragon monsters. That is not really a downside because we are pretty much only playing dragons. It does have an additional ability where you can banish it from the grave to fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, including a Blue Eyes monster. That is really good for being able to get into your Tyrant Dragon, which is an absolute house of a card. We'll discuss that when we get to the extra deck. But Roar the Blue-Eyed Dragons, it's one of the easier ways that you will be able to get into your Blue Eyes White Dragon. And yeah, the fact that we are playing it at 3 means that, again, if you already have access to your wishes, then you could go ahead and do something like search for the Roar, because you will have 3 copies in the deck. But of course, you don't mind drawing into it, because if you draw it in tandem with your bingo, then that means that you will be able to use your bingo to go for the wishes and vice versa. So additionally, we are playing 3 copies of the trap card, Majesty of the White Dragons, which is just an insane card, in my opinion, especially since we are playing the pure variant. You could show up to 3 of the Blue Eyes White Dragon in your hand, face-up monster zone, and or grave, and then destroy an equal number of cards your opponent controls. This is busted. Hands down. It does not target. It straight up is removal that you will be able to utilize on your opponent's turn. And all you have to do is just reveal Blue Eyes White Dragon in any of those areas, which is why I mentioned that it isn't all that bad if we do end up drawing into one of the 3 Blue Eyes that we have, because of the fact that if we do have the Majesty combo, we will be able to reveal the one that we have in hand to pop a monster that our opponent controls. So since we are playing 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon, in the best case scenario, if we have all 3 in rotation in either the hand, monster zone, or grave, then that means we have the ability to potentially destroy up to 3 cards your opponent controls non-targeting. Now again, normally this is not a card you would run at this ratio, but this is the pure variant, and we are playing the Bingo Machine Go. So again, we just want to make sure that we have 3 copies so that we can guarantee the search off of the Bingo Machine if we need to do so. So yeah, Majesty is incredible. It does have a secondary effect where you can use it to ritual summon, but we are not utilizing any ritual monsters in this particular build. So for some additional spells that we have added, I have chosen to add a Pot of Prosperity because of the fact that we are not necessarily going to be utilizing every single card in the extra deck. Again, because we're not playing the Primate Engine, we do want to maximize on cards that can help out with the consistency, and thanks to Rarity Collection, the Pot of Prosperity is affordable. So definitely doesn't hurt to play the 1, and you just have to be smart with the things that you do choose to banish. In Blue Eyes, as long as you're able to get a rotation of some of the main monsters in your extra deck, then you do not necessarily need every single card in your extra deck every single game. We're also playing the one called By the Grave, pretty straightforward. We really do not want to go to activate our Wishes for Eyes of Blue and just have it get Ash Blossom and have to pass the turn. Being able to have protection from hand traps is critical. And then we are playing the 1 Mausoleum of White, which has a great ability where you can, during the main phase, normal summon a light level 1 light tuner in addition to your normal summon or set. And once per turn, you can target a face-up monster you control, send 1 normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, so that helps to get your Blue Eyes in rotation. And if you do, the targeted monster gains attack and defense equal to the level of the monster sent to the grave times 100. And this you can banish this card from the grave to add a burst stream of destruction if you choose to play it. We are not, so we're really just using it for that double summon ability. We are using it to be able to potentially get your Blue Eyes into rotation by sending it into the graveyard, and most importantly, it is searchable off of your Spirit with Eyes of Blue. So you definitely want to play at least 1 copy. Sucks to draw, but it is what it is. And lastly, for the engine, we are playing the 1 copy of True Light. So it is a continuous trap that says your opponent cannot target Blue Eyes White Dragon in your monster zone with card effects. Pretty nice to have the protection. Unfortunately, it does say if the face-up card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the grave, destroy all monsters you control. So that is an unfortunate downside. We are playing some cards like the Jet Dragon as well as cards in the extra deck to help protect from that effect going off, but a lot of the times your opponent will try to use that against you, so you do have to keep it in mind. But the reason that we play it is because of the abilities that you can use once per turn. You can either A, special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or grave, or you can set a spell or trap directly from the deck that specifically lists the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is going to be most of them, in its text with a different name from the cards you control or in your graveyard. So obviously, when you are just starting out in the game, you are going to be going for a card that most of the time would not have already been in the grave. So a lot of the time the go-to is Wishes. So you will be able to set that directly from the deck to go ahead and activate it the same turn. Remember, any card spells that are set, as long as they are not quick effect, can still be activated the turn they are set. So that is something that you definitely want to make sure that you know. But obviously, if you already have the Wishes in rotation, you could go for something like the Roar of the Blue-Eyed White Dragons or the Trap card. So True Light is just the glue that kind of helps to bring everything together to make sure that you have all the pieces you need to be able to combo off. So to round out the deck, we are playing a bunch of non-engine. We are playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Being able to negate your opponent's monster effects is very important. We are also playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Stopping critical special summons or critical searches from your opponent is going to be something that helps to slow them down. The Blue Eyes deck is very much a control deck in which we kind of more of a, I don't want to say control, but more mid-range, where we're doing a little bit of comboing, but we are not necessarily trying to create an unstoppable field. We want to be able to kind of play low to the ground, maybe set up an interruption or two using our resources and engine, set up the graveyard so that we have really good follow-up for the following turn, and then supplement our kind of our field with hand traps. So we are trying to play as many as we can to be able to make sure that we can actually play the game, just in case we do not go first. We're also playing 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird, which is a very powerful card in this format in particular. This is something that you can use to be able to hit Mitsurugi Ryziel. This is something that is very much the bane of a lot of decks in the current format, and the fact that it is budget means that it is something that can easily help you win games. Being able to prevent your opponent from... your opponent basically gets 1 search, and then that's it. And a lot of decks really want to be able to search multiple times. So Droll and Lockbird being a fantastic floodgate effect that can instantly help shift the tide of the duel in your favor is something that you really want to ensure that you are playing in your deck. We're also playing 3 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being. We always want your opponent to be afraid of special summoning or summoning in general too many times. So Nibiru is there kind of as an insurance policy to make sure that things do not get out of hand, even if your opponent is able to establish a monster that does have a negate before the 5th summon. That is why we are playing cards like Infinite Impermanence as well as the searchable Effect Veiler. So there are ways that you will be able to add Effect Veiler directly to your hand. So in tandem with Nibiru, it does make for a very strong combo to be able to make sure that your opponent is not able to summon too many times and establish a field that is unbreakable. Blue Eyes, unfortunately, can have some struggle playing into boards, so that is why, again, we want to stop our opponent as much as possible by playing as many hand traps as possible. So if you were counting, we are playing 41 cards, and that is it for the main deck. So I'm going to go quickly over the extra deck. We are playing 2 copies of Spirit with Eyes of Blue, the new Link monster that is very powerful for the deck. All you need is 1 level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster monster specifically to go into him, and that of course means that you can use your Sage with Eyes of Blue, your Maiden of White, Heck, you could even use your Effect Veiler and even Drollin Lockbird if you are just that down bad to be able to get into it. So the fact that there are so many different cards that you can use to go into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue just makes it very versatile for this deck in particular. So from the get-go, it says you cannot special summon monsters except dragon monsters. Most of the time, that is not going to necessarily be an issue. However, it does conflict with your Maiden of White, so you do want to be careful. But, of course, we are playing other monsters that we can go into to help get the Spirit with Eyes of Blue off of the field, so that when you do need to be able to go into other types of special summons, you will not be out of that lock. But most of the time, it isn't necessarily going to be an issue since we are mostly playing dragon monsters. So you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If it's link summoned, you can basically add a Mausoleum of White from the deck to the hand or send it to the graveyard. Most of the time, you're going to want to add it to your hand. As I mentioned, it's searchable. It gives you the ability to summon again and potentially get a Blue Eyes into the graveyard if necessary. You could also tribute this card to special summon one Blue Eyes monster from your hand or grave, but if you special summoned an effect monster from your graveyard by this effect, it cannot attack and its effects are negated. So this is a way for you to be able to get into your Blue Eyes. So that is the name of the game, and the fact that it gets you access to the field spell is important. So that is why I play 2. You could certainly play around with 3, but there are many different techs that I wanted to play in the extra deck, so that is why I'm only running the 2. But feel free to be able to play around with the ratios and what feels good for you. I'm playing 1 Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. We are a dragon deck, so the fact that it just takes 2 dragon monsters as material to go into makes it very generic, and it just so happens to be a great tool that we can use for interruption. Once per opponent's turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, you could quick effect tribute a monster from your hand or field, return 1 face-up card on the field to the hand. So that can be monsters, it can be spells or traps, and if this card is tributed, you could special summon a dragon monster from your hand or deck and make its attack and defense 0. So what's important about the Hieratic Seal is that it is one of the cards that you can go ahead and use to link into to get the Spirit of Eyes of Blue off of the field if necessary, so that you can get back into no longer being locked out of dragon-type monsters. But additionally, its effect, when you use the ability to tribute itself off to bounce something that your opponent controls, you can then special summon something like the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon from the deck, which you don't mind. Yeah, it will end up having the 0 attack and defense. However, its effects are not negated, so it does mean that you will be able to take advantage of its protection ability, as well as its ability to use its damage step shenanigans. So I do like Hieratic Seal, and I definitely recommend playing at least 1 copy. And for the amazing Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, which is still just as good as it was when it initially released way back when. I want to say it's been, if it hasn't been 10 years, it is very close to it. So it's got very relevant effects. The first one, not as much in this current metagame. It does say neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. That is very much more anti-pendulum kind of rhetoric on the card. And pendulums are not necessarily a mechanic that is relevant in the current metagame, but hey, it's nice to have. The more important effects are when once per turn, when the effect of a card in the grave is activated. Quick effect, you can negate the activation, so that's pretty good. There are many decks in the game that want to utilize effects in the graveyard, so just being able to have a graveyard negate is always appreciated. However, one of the bigger effects is the fact that you can quick effect tribute this synchro summoned card to special summon a light dragon synchro monster from your extra deck in defense position. So we are playing a myriad of different targets to be able to tag into. And one of the targets is the new Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon. Just an absolutely gorgeous card, especially in Secret Rare. and it's got a lot of really good effects. First and foremost, your opponent cannot banish cards from your grave. That means that they will not be able to bestial the blue eyes out of your graveyard. They will not be able to use Called by the Grave against you. There are many different cards that try to interact in banishing cards from your grave in that way. So Blue Eyes Ultimate acting as a floodgate in that manner is certainly appreciated. However, you also have the ability where when a card or effect is activated specifically on the field, so unfortunately it can't be used against things like Nibiru or other cards that activate in the hand, but you can negate the activation, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn. So that is nice. The fact that Blue Eyes gets a pseudo Omni negate. It would be nice if we are able to negate from anywhere, but hey, we'll take where what we can get for sure. And if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you could special summon one light dragon monster from your graveyard. So being able to float. And because of the fact that the Blue Eye Spirit Dragon does destroy whatever it special summons during the end phase, that does mean that you will be able to trigger that ability. So yeah, it's nice, a nice consolation effect, so that by the time your turn does roll around, you really want to be able to use your Spirit Dragon as quickly as you can so that you can utilize the negate, because it won't be sticking around since it will be destroyed anyway. However, one of the other targets that we can special summon off of the Spirit Dragon is our Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, also just a very gorgeous card. And it says if this card is special summoned, until the end of the turn, neither player can target dragon monsters you currently control with card effects, so just a blanket protection for the remainder of the turn, even if this card is no longer on the field, is nice to be able to have. So no more being able to imperm your cards, things of that nature. And then it says that they cannot be destroyed by card effects. So that is also something that is key, because that includes card effects on your side that would destroy your monsters as well. So the fact that we have the True Light, which if it itself is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, would end up destroying your monsters. With Azure Eyes on the field, it does mean that you will reap the benefits of the protection, because you will not be able to lose your field because of the protection effect, which is really nice. So there are many times where if I recognize that my opponent is going to try to pop the True Light, then the Silver Dragon is a nice go-to play. And during the standby phase, you could target a normal monster in your grave and special summon it. Not necessarily super relevant. We're really just playing it to be able to get access to the targeting and destruction protection for the remainder of the turn. We are also playing one copy of Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. If it's special summoned, or level 5 or higher monster on the field. If this card is special summoned or level 5 or higher monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, you could target one special summon monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand, so being able to bounce a critical extra deck monster back to the extra deck, for example, is something that is incredibly strong. So Moonlight Dragon is a welcome addition to the deck. We are also playing the one Lightstorm Dragon. If it is special summoned, you could target spells and traps on the field up to the number of normal monsters in your grave +1 and destroy them. So yeah, we're playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes, so there are going to be times where at the bare minimum you have at least 1, but hey, you might even have 2, meaning that the Lightstorm Dragon has the ability to potentially pop up to 3 spells and traps your opponent controls, super debilitating against any trap-based strategy for sure, but there are decks in the current metagame that utilize continuous spells, field spells, for example, so that is also something that can be used to kind of help you and in those matchups in which maybe they are playing continuous spells or field spells that might make it difficult for you to be able to play. So Lightstorm Dragon is a really good card. The only thing I wish is that it had a higher rarity variant. And I am choosing to play the Crimson Dragon. So this is a very strong card. It says if it is special summoned, you can target a spell or trap that mentions Crimson Dragon from the deck to your hand. We are not playing it for that ability. We are mostly playing it for its quick effect to target a level 7 or higher synchro monster on the field, except itself. return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon one Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck with the same level as the targeted monster, and more importantly, it is treated as a synchro summon. So what's the deal with the Crimson Dragon? Well, if we do have the ability to go into the double Spirit Dragon play, which is something that can happen depending on how strong your hand is. One of them can be used to go into your ultimate Spirit Dragon, which is fantastic. And the second one will then be able to tag out into the Crimson Dragon, which you can then use to target your ultimate Spirit Dragon to go into the incredibly powerful Cosmic Blazar Dragon, which has 3 insane effects. It says if it is synchro summoned, you can quick effect banish this card until the end phase to activate one of the following effects. You can either, when your opponent activates a card or effect, straight up negate and destroy the card. When your opponent would summon a monster, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy it. Or when an opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack and end the battle phase. Cosmic Blazar Dragon is an insane boss monster, and this is very much a combo that if you are able to get into, will most of the time make it very difficult for your opponent to be able to win the game. So I do like this, especially in a budget variant like this. You want to utilize as many cards as possible that will help to seal the game in your favor. And the Blazar and the Crimson Dragon now being budget options for this deck in particular means that Blue Eyes has an additional win under its belt. So I do recommend these options. Obviously, you could swap this out for an additional Hieratic Seal, an additional Spirit Dragon. You could add another Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Obviously, it's personal preference, but the fact that these were reprinted means that they are affordable, and I personally like playing them in my build. We are also playing the Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, so it must be either fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing one Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a fusion monster. It is unaffected by trap cards or effects, and it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Once per turn at the end of the damage step. If this card battle, you can target one trap in your grave and set it to your spell and trap card zone. I'm not even sure where to begin with this card. I guess just being able to bring it out in general. So earlier when I was describing the wishes, it has the secondary ability where you can banish it from the grave to target a Blue Eyes you control and equip a Blue Eyes monster from your extra deck to it as equipped. So one of the targets that we are using is the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So when you have the wishes in the grave and you have your Blue Eyes White Dragon in play, you can go ahead and banish the wishes to equip the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and then you will be able to use these to fusion summon into your Tyrant Dragon, since it says that it must you can also special summon it by tributing a Blue Eyes while it's equipped with a fusion monster. The reason it is nice to be able to go for the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is because when a card or effect is activated that targets a Blue Eyes monster you control, you can quick effect banish this card from the grave to negate the activation and destroy it, which is a nice protection effect. So again, that's Blue Eyes monster, so you can use it to be able to protect your Tyrant Dragon once you do go into it. And a lot of the times, because this is in the grave, your opponent is not doesn't remember and doesn't see it coming. So that is certainly a play that you want to make sure that you are going for. So it is very easy to get into it, and the stats of 3,400 is certainly a large enough number to be able to get over most things. And its battle phase, being able to attack into all of your opponent's monsters once each, is incredibly powerful. And then obviously the effect where it can, at the end of the damage step, assuming it battled, you could target a trap in your grave and set it to your spell and trap card zone, is a nice bonus because you are playing cards like Infinite Impermanence, for example. You could use it to reset your Majesty. So as long as Tyrant Dragon continues to stick around, it can and will win you the game. So you definitely want to make sure that you are playing at least one copy. And then for the last card, we are teching one copy of Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis. During the turn or turn after your opponent special summoned 2 or more monsters from the extra deck, you could Xyz summon using this card Xyz summon this card by using one monster you control with the highest attack. You can't normal or special summon for the rest of the turn, but this is really just to be able to help you to break boards, because of the fact that while this monsters on the field, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack, and then once per turn you can detach a material from the card to return a monster from the field to the hand. So this is kind of a get out of jail free card, so that just in case if things go south, or if you needed to be able to help break boards, then you can certainly go into Typhon to help you do so. So guys, I'm going to quickly go over the side deck. I realize that this has been an incredibly long profile, and you're a real one if you are still watching up until this point. But it's a budget profile. Like I mentioned, these are going to be cards that you can pick up for relatively cheap because of the rarity collections and multiple reprints. So one of the cards I'm playing is Dark Ruler No More. I just think that, like I mentioned, Blue Eyes can have a difficult time with being able to break boards and just being able to say, to negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls until the end of the turn. Also, neither player takes damage. Essentially, your opponent takes no more damage after this is activated, which is fine, if it means that you're going to be able to say no to all of your opponent's monster effects. We're also playing 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier to be able to declare a type, and then for the rest of the turn, neither player can special summon monsters of that declared type. If we are able to get into a position where we have the Tyrant Dragon and we are playing against a deck that needs to be able to utilize a certain summoning type like Xyz or Synchro, and we are constantly resetting the Dimensional Barrier off of the Tyrant Dragon's effect, we are going to be in a very, very winning position. We're also playing 3 copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Again, these are cards that have relevance in the current metagame. There are many decks in the format that banishes cards from the grave, special summons monsters from the grave. So I think Ghost Bell is an underrated hand trap in the format. We're playing 3 copies of Artifact Lancia, unless you've been sleeping under a rock. Malice is one of the most powerful banished decks that this game has ever seen, and Artifact Lancia is one of the go-to kind of silver bullets that we can use against Malice to prevent them from being able to combo off. So Lancia is kind of a must in the side deck at the bare minimum, and we are playing 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So guys, that is going to be it for the profile. I really hope that you learned something, and if you didn't learn something, then you were just found value in watching my profile and maybe getting some ideas for yourself. I think that Blue Eyes is not necessarily well positioned with the Primate engine being as expensive as it is. We do have to be able to find different ways to be able to make Blue Eyes work until we get a reprint of the cards in the Primate engine that are particularly expensive. So those are going to be like the Lordly Loads, your Barrel Dragons. So I do think that picking up this core at the bare minimum will be beneficial to you, because eventually those cards will be reprinted. And when they are, all you need to do in order to be able to upgrade a deck like this is simply get the cards once they are much more affordable, and then you can go ahead and get yourself a nice upgrade. But even without the Primate engine, I do think that this deck has legs. Definitely try out the Bingo Machine tech if you have not had the ability to do so. And again, you can play around with the ratios. These are ratios that I found that just kind of make sense and work for me. But of course, if there are different numbers that you want to be able to play, please feel free to do so. But guys, that's it from me. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not yet done so already. And until next time, GG.